We'll get started. Welcome back, everybody. A lot of familiar faces from a couple weeks ago, and we got about 100 new registrations. Not everyone's on today, but a lot of people this may be your first Zoom meeting of the year. So welcome to all of you. What we're going to do is similar to the last week's session is we're going to do a short presentation, go over a few topics that we want to cover. I'm sure they're hopefully topics that some of you have questions on. Once we get through that presentation, which will probably be 20 minutes or so, we'll open it up for Q&A. And so I'll show how everybody can raise their hand, and we can do it in a systematic method to raise your hand, and we'll take your questions one at a time. Just because, as it did last week or a couple of weeks ago, a lot of you do have questions. So we do ask for you to keep your questions or your conversations to a minimum, and we'll try to get through as much as possible and see how this goes. So to start, I am going to share my screen to share the presentation. Oops. Of course, I'll get back to that. I started on the wrong slide. So here we go. So to what we're going to cover today, like always, just cover a quick update on bookings. And this month, at the end of the month, we wrapped up our pricing update to see how did folks start off the season with pricing. We'll talk about the email inquiry process that we talked about a couple weeks ago, and we've been sending a lot of communications out about. And then Joan's going to talk about a couple topics that many questions have come in about cancellation policies this year and long-term bookings. The first thing is looking at the traffic, looking at the number of guests that we have coming into our site. And we've talked about this over and over again, but it doesn't get old. It doesn't get old to look at this chart to really see where we are and to see what the demand of this pandemic has created. We saw this last summer. It carried over into the fall, and it's carried over now into the new year. Last year, we increased. 2020 was a record year for vacationers, and then you can see that kind of this 2021 has been off the charts in terms of the number of individual vacationers that have been coming in, inquiring through the site. And I've mentioned before that I think this demand, if some folks have said that they haven't done as well so far, maybe you have smaller homes or you just tend to book a little bit later, that's fine. I don't think this demand is going to come down significantly. I think it's going to remain high. January is always the strongest month, but I think we can anticipate that there will be strong months from here throughout the rest of the spring and definitely into the summer for last minute bookings as well. Those high demands that we saw in January and the ones that we saw and leading the fall into the new year has resulted in these numbers, which again, these are pretty staggering numbers that we're seeing in terms of the bookings on your weeks for the summer. These are summer booking numbers. The numbers for the off season are strong as well. Many of you that are looking to rent out, especially May and June, you're going to see strong booking numbers there. I've even seen inquiries for school vacation weeks, April vacation in particular. So if it's not a time that you typically rent out, you may consider opening up your home in the off season if you'd like to catch some of the off season demand.
No.
The pricing, we've taken a look at the end of the month. We wrapped up our pricing numbers to see how do folks increase their rental rates from the previous year. Typically, we see on average 2 to 3% increase. That would be the norm that we've seen throughout the years. And certainly last year, heading into 2020, was on the heels of the lodging tax. And so many folks are a little uneasy about upping the rental rates back then. And so we saw many, except for the Vineyard last year, we only saw, only the Vineyard got above 3%. Everybody else was well below that. This year, again, you can see people felt comfortable increasing their rates and significantly above that threshold 2 to 3%. We see here that many folks have felt comfortable raising their rates based upon the demands that they saw last summer. And I think the demands that we're seeing now show that the vacationers are not hesitant to pay this additional interest rate on your homes. It's not to say that that's for everybody. Certainly every situation is a little bit different, but for those that you can see that the average increase is significantly higher than in previous years. I'm going to talk about shifting gears to the inquiry response system a little bit. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. We've made some adjustments based upon the feedback. It's critical that we've been rolling this out in our in the phased way that we have. A couple weeks ago, this information was not visible to you on your site. And so but I did show a chart that was showing your response time, the amount of time it takes to respond to any inquiry. I was showing it by hour in a chart. What I've done is simplified it here, and this is what the groupings will be. What we're going to be looking at is simply the average response time for all your inquiries over a 180-day period. What's the average response time? Within a day, within 2 days, or over 2 days? And you can see that the bulk here, I think, well, we have 86% of folks are within a day, which is excellent. And that's what we're looking for. And the reason why we grouped it down to this, not to get so granular down to the hour or 6 hours, and is we don't want it to be a competition. We don't want you to be hanging on to your phones or getting an inquiry at midnight some night and expect that I got to respond to that right away. We're just looking for we're looking to focus on getting homeowners to understand that the response time matters here, that vacationers are anxious to book a home, especially this year when the demand is so high. They're sending out inquiries, and if they don't respond, they if they don't hear a response, they fear they might miss out on what is a very competitive marketplace right now. So it's in your best interest, obviously, to respond as quickly as possible too. But our focus will be to get within a day is what we were looking for on average. I'm sure there'll be some questions, happy to answer them after this presentation. But if you have questions on kind of the specifics of how the system works, we did create a tutorial last week that is worth a review. It goes through step by step how you're receiving your inquiries, what are your options to respond. There are multiple ways to respond, and it'll provide a good overview if you have questions on that. The other side of response, we're talking about response time. The other piece that's almost more important, I feel, as we look at our data, is the response rate. And believe it or not, I mean, most of you that are on here are very focused on making sure that you're doing the best things possible for your listings and for your guests. So you're not the ones that we're looking to ensure that you're adhering to these standards, but we have about 84% response rate on the inquiries over the past month and a half. And that means there's 16% of our inquiries are not getting responded to, or at least they're not being recorded. If there are some homeowners that would like to receive an inquiry and respond by phone, and we said that's fine, but our recommendation is that if you receive that inquiry, right before you respond by phone, you send a quick email back, I'll give you a call. Or if you respond by email anytime over the next, after you get off the phone or hours after you get off the phone, just send a follow-up email. That's going to record in our system. And that's where some of the lack of response is likely. But the other side of this is we're hearing a lot of feedback. We have heard this feedback since last summer that if a vacationer doesn't hear back within a day, they're calling us, they're emailing us. I haven't heard. Are my inquiries going through? And then to the extent that it's, as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, it's a lose-lose situation. If they feel that they don't receive a response back at all, not only are they not obviously booking your home, but they may not even stay on our site. They say, I'm not going to use We Need a Vacation anymore because I'm not hearing back from homeowners. And so it's for that reason that it's so critical that we are looking to put a little bit of transparency on here and allow for those that are on top of things. Your listing will show this, that you're responsive in a timely manner. And so that was the other FAQ on this, is that, well, what does this mean? Like, this is great that right now this is showing up on my homeowner center. So what's the impact on my listing? And so the listing, what we are looking to do is that in sometime this spring, Q2, we will be publishing this information on the property listing. Not sure exactly where, maybe underneath the about the owner, but just making this information visible to our vacationers, to your potential guests. So I'm sure there'll be questions on this, and I'm happy to answer those when we complete this part of the presentation. Joan, I think I'm going to flip it over to you on the last two topics here, cancellation.
Sure. We're continuing to get home questions and emails, phone calls from homeowners who are still concerned about cancellation policies. And many of you are adhering to the same policy that you had last spring. With the pandemic still going on, we assumed that, vacationers, and we've heard from many vacationers who are still a little fearful about booking a property, especially at this early date. The normal refund that most of you have imposed is that if you can re-rent your property, your listing, your home, you will refund all of the monies that you received thus far from them. If you have to lower the price in order to re-rent it, which is sometimes the case, especially if it's very close to the tenancy date, you would, and you were successful in re-renting it, but at the lower rate, then you would return the funds you had collected thus far minus the reduction that you had offered. So some of you have refund if canceled a number of months prior to the tenancy. So you offer a full refund if the vacationer cancels, let's say, a month or 2 months prior to their arrival, especially with the popularity of vacation rentals and how scarce we think the inventory is going to be. It's a pretty sure bet that you will be able to re-rent it if you offer that kind of policy. But some of you, would prefer not to. So, but it is an option, and it is one that some people have offered. The other is, vacationers are still fearful of this, of the pandemic and whether it will, surge again. And so if there is some kind of a travel ban, you can reassure your guests that you will obviously return their money if there's a travel ban to Massachusetts, or perhaps from the state that they're coming from, if they're coming from out of state. And the other one, the option, and this is something that we didn't really focus on too much last spring, because most travel insurance companies at that time were not offering travel insurance for the reason or for cancellation for reason of COVID or of a virus. But they've changed that, and so now they are offering travel insurance for that reason. And we have told you before, but if you're not aware, there is a travelinsurance.com is an aggregate website that enables vacationers to input the information about their rental in terms of when their travel dates, the people in their party, and how much they're paying for the rental. And the travelinsurance.com will present to them those the companies that offer, they will post a price and their policy, and the vacationer can then choose the policy that works best for them and the insurance company. So, we certainly don't recommend a particular company. It's variable, and it really depends on what the vacationer is looking for. Yeah. So, Jeff, Jen, the next one. Long-term bookings. We are still finding that vacationers are looking for perhaps a month or more this summer. They certainly did last summer with a vengeance, and it's still going on to a certain extent. And for you as a homeowner, it can be a very good thing, because you don't have to worry about the you know, the sanitizing the house, and that all that goes into the turnover. And it's just nice to have somebody there for a long period of time. But there are some cautionary measures too. You should vet them very carefully. Be sure that your home is a good fit for them, that you know exactly who it's going to be, and you just have to really take time to make sure that it is going to work out well. And one of the aspects of that is managing their expectations. When somebody is in your home for a week and there are some minor inconveniences or some things that they are missing, but they'll put up with it, or they'll just overlook it. They're only there for a week and it's fine. If they're there for the long haul, a month or more, they will place more demands, and they will ask you to fulfill some of their expectations for items. And so that it's important for them to know exactly what your house provides. It's a great idea for them to even come and look at your home prior to booking it, especially if it's even more than a month. Have a fairly strict cancellation policy. If somebody were to book your home for, let's say, 6 weeks, and then 2 weeks prior call you and say, I'm really sorry, we have had a death in the family, or if there's illness and we have to cancel, you're kind of up a creek to fill those 6 weeks all of a sudden. I mean, if you could probably fill them, week by week, but there are some people who have a 1 month minimum stay at their home. If it's in a condo community, or they just have decided they want a 1 month minimum stay, it might be hard to find somebody to replace them. So, just look at your cancellation policy carefully, and perhaps encourage them to get travel insurance. You might ask for a higher security deposit if they're there longer. They could potentially, do more damage. Cleaning is really important. It's our advice not to not have cleaning crew go in during the term of their tenancy. If you have someone else, the next tenant comes in the day that this long-term tenant leaves, it's nearly impossible for the cleaners to clean it sufficiently. Plus, it's not a bad idea to have a cleaning crew go in 2 weeks in, perhaps 2 weeks into their stay. Line it up with the tenants so that they know, it's a convenient time for them. And it's not going to be a real thorough cleaning, but it also gives the cleaning crew an opportunity to check out the house, see that everything is going okay. And the last one is if you are booking for someone for 31 days or more, 32 days or more, there is no lodging tax to pay. So that's you could even add that for an owner special if you are looking for a longer term renter. So that's it.
All right. I think what we'll do for the last half of this meeting is open it up to questions. If you're not familiar with the Zoom raising of the hands, I'm showing it here momentarily. Most of you are on your desktops. You can click the participants down at the bottom, and then you'll see in the participants, you'll see a raise hand option, and that will allow you to raise your hand. If you struggle to find that and you can't get your hand raised that way, feel free to call out in the chat window too. We can try to find you that way. Let me stop the share here.
Jim, could I just say something that,
Sure.
follow up on something that you said? You showed the chart with how well the bookings were going.
Right.
And I don't want people to think that, oh my gosh, I'm not fully booked like, so many people, what's wrong? A lot of these bookings are repeat bookings. They may be holdovers from last summer, people who didn't come and then said they would. If you're new to our site, you're starting out fresh. So don't fear if your home is not fully booked at this point. And of course, that's the average. And we've always said that if you have a small home, 1 or 2 bedrooms, it's going to rent closer to the season. So have no fear.
Great. All right. I see some hands raised, so we'll take these folks here. Michael Litchfield, I will ask. Yep, you're unmuted there.
Sure. Hi,
Hey,
folks.
hi, Mike. How you doing?
Hi, how you guys doing tonight? Thanks again for meeting with us all.
You're
You bet.
welcome.
I have a question for Joan, which is that I'm wondering if you've seen any indication from the state officials that they may be interested in raising that 31-day cutoff to a higher number. Do you think that that will remain in place, or is the state going to get a little more greedy and up that number?
I see no indication that they will change that, Michael. Have you seen? I mean, is this just speculation on your part? That
Yeah, I'm just always a little bit wary of the state looking for additional tax revenue.
yeah,
And
well,
that's why I'm wondering if the 31 days might remain or whether it's likely to go up at some point.
yeah, no, I don't think so. If anything will go up, it might be, for instance, on the Vineyard and Nantucket. If they join the water protection plan, then they'll be adding a 2.75% tax for you. And those Cape communities that are now at 12.45%, they may increase it in your town to the maximum 6%. But I don't see them changing that limit on the 32-day plus
Okay.
anytime soon. They're getting, believe me, they're getting a lot of funds from this this tax
Yeah.
as it is. Yeah.
And I also had a question. I've noticed that with the inquiries that we've been getting lately, at least 5 of the inquiries have all asked for discounts, which I've never seen before. And I was wondering if everyone was also getting hit by people. I mean, I know people like to shop around, but if they're putting in for a certain price and then they come to you and say, well, our budget is for $1,300 a week. Can you meet that? And you're like, excuse me? I mean, it's like shocking.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if, I mean, 5 is a lot to get recently.
Yeah. I have not heard that from many people, and especially at this early date. I mean, as we get closer, if in late June, if somebody comes to you and sees that you have a week left in July, they may well ask for a discount, thinking that, well, they'll you'll accept it rather than see your home go empty. But this is so early. I hope you tell them, well, this is the price.
I did. I said, you'll have to stay within your budget, try another listing, or, what else can you say? I mean, I'm sorry, this is the way it is. I feel like you're not buying my house or buying a car. They're renting it.
Right. Let's negotiate.
Yeah, right.
The highest bidder.
Shocked. Exactly. I was very shocked about that.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, definitely at this early stage and this high demand, it's not needed to discuss discounts. Let's go to Cynthia, you're up next here.
Okay, hey, how everybody's doing?
Good.
Okay, I got two questions. When you have a long-term renter for like 31 days and you have you have the cleaning service come in, who pays for the cleaning service? Do you pay for it or does the renter pay for it?
Well, it sort of depends. I mean, do you pay, do you incorporate the cleaning fee in your rent?
No, I don't.
You charge extra, yeah.
I
So
charge extra.
if you charge them, I'm afraid they're going to say, no, we don't need it.
Okay.
I think my suggestion would be to just say, we send in a cleaning crew after, 2 weeks or so, and, can we arrange to just find a time? And then really that's one of the reasons why you don't need to particularly discount. You're not saving on cleaning.
Right.
It's just, more convenient for you.
Gotcha. All right, and the second question, we mentioned with your contract and cancellation, should you put something in the contract now in event something happens with the state with COVID? Would that make sense to put something like that in the
No,
contract now?
it's already in our sample lease, isn't it, or
I
contract?
think you have that virus or any viruses.
Yeah.
It doesn't really say COVID. So we
Yeah.
figured that's good enough.
Yeah,
Okay.
generic.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Cynthia.
All right.
Let's go to Nicole and then Lorraine after that.
Thanks. So my
Hi,
question
Nicole.
was just wondering about advice of Sunday to Sunday versus Saturday to Saturday summer rentals.
Mhm.
3 properties, and I have a faithful cleaning lady that I'd like to keep, but it's obviously too hard to do.
Yeah.
But what's happened is I'm not getting any bookings for the Sunday to Sunday, not even close.
You're not getting the inquiries. You're Sunday to Sunday, are you?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. We can send you a blog post about the subject, but Saturday is by far the most popular check-in day. Sunday is the next most popular, and Friday the third. So for a lot of people it doesn't matter, but there are many who would prefer Saturday. They finish up work on Friday and they'd like to, have their vacation on Saturday, started on Saturday. And then at the other end, they like to go home on Saturday, so they have Sunday to kind of regroup and get ready for the work week.
Yeah,
But
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I was also wondering with the search engine, they probably put in Saturday to Saturday, right?
the default is if the week is available, it will show. If they specifically say, I want to start on a Sunday, then only yours will show up and the others won't. But unless they indicate that they need a specific check-in day, your listing will come up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and that means if somebody goes in and just simply searches for the first week, Saturday to Saturday in July, by default, the search will return any rental that starts during that week. And so it doesn't matter that a rental week would be returned if they start on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday by default. As Joan said, they explicitly have to say, I only want to see rentals that start on Saturday, but that's rarely done. I think people only go specific when they know they need to start on a Sunday. Or other day.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Lorraine, you're up next. I will. Can you hear us? You have to unmute on your end, Lorraine. All right. No, I think we just lost Lorraine. All right. Let me move on to Carolyn.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Oh, wait, sorry, Lorraine, you're
This is
back.
Lorraine. Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, we'll go back to Lorraine and Carolyn, I'll come back to you.
Oh, thank you. Real quick question. Do people usually give discounts for multiple weeks? When people go, do you give a discount for multiple weeks? Is there a set number or a percentage?
I'm not sure there's even a rule of thumb, but I would think maybe between maybe 5% or so. Perhaps a little bit more than that. If it's if they book for 32 days or more, they're saving a lot of money on the lodging tax right there. But if it's just 2 weeks, it really depends. I'm
And
not sure
especially,
there's any set.
and especially during the summer, if it's 2 prime weeks in the summer, I don't think you have to. And the demand is so strong, you certainly don't have to. If it's the last week of August that somebody wants the last week of August and Labor Day together, or something like that, then sure. I mean, and they're both open for you. Sure, maybe you want to provide a discount just to seal a booking from a good tenant. So I guess you got to play which weeks are they and
Right.
but you certainly do not need to in this high demand at this, especially early on.
I'd just like to add that it really depends on how motivated you are. If you listen to what Joan said about the added risks of longer term rentals, that's in the shoulder seasons or in the high season. But of course, the risks are even greater, I think, in the prime season. So if I've gotten to the point where I don't get all excited about a 2 or 3 week rental. First of all, I don't like having to give that discount. So I think it's really a personal thing. And that's why some people just drop it $100 flat off the thing. Some people are more incentive. They really don't like doing that cleaning thing. It's really a personal decision.
Yeah, good stuff. Thanks.
Thanks, Lorraine. Okay, Carolyn, we'll unmute you.
There we go. I'm unmuted.
All right.
So I actually had written in this question yesterday. My ad, wherever I have my house listed, it very clearly states that I do not accept pets. And I have dogs, so it's not that I'm not animal friendly, but we feel very strongly that, there's already a mold problem on Cape Cod, some of the houses, smelling musty. And then if we add pets to that, I mean, I have dogs. I know what dogs do. I continually get inquiries from people who have cats and dogs and, oh, but my dog, So the other day I got an inquiry from a woman whose child had an emotional support dog. And I told her, it clearly says we don't accept pets. Plus, as it happened, the days she wanted, people can't seem to look at the calendar. I don't know what their problem is, but the week that she was asking was not available anyway. But my question is, if they have a legitimate, she said she had a doctor's prescription in the whole 9 yards. If they have a legitimate emotional support animal, am I obligated to ignore that, even though I have a no pet policy, or am I getting myself into some sort of legal bind by refusing them?
Yeah, Carolyn, if you had a rental that you rented for, let's say, 6 months or a year, that's a different story, because that's one party in there for a year, and you don't have other guests to consider. But in your case, it's very possible that people choose your home because it's not pet friendly, and they do have members of their party that have significant allergies to pets. And it takes a long time to get pet dander out of a home. It's not something that just goes away, in a couple of hours. So I would just, an emotional support dog is, it's still a dog. And so I think that you could easily tell them that you have promised your guests that it will not have any pets you will not have any pets in the home. And I don't, I don't think there are any laws that would say that you have to accept them.
Okay, good.
Carolyn, we will move on to Unmesh.
Hi. John, my question is, I think I asked that question. I believe last year you told me, but I forgot. If you're doing, if you're not doing consecutive days, so if you do it 2 weeks and then you do it 3 weeks later on, then how would I be still required to pay or get the lodging tax?
Yes, if you're saying you have 2 weeks, a 2-week rental, and then later on you have a 3-week rental?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you rent your home for 14 days or more, or
Yeah.
more than 14 days out of the calendar year, you are required to collect the tax, unless you have just like a 1-week renter.
No, what I meant was the same person who is
Yes.
renting it, they couldn't get it
Oh, I
consecutive
see.
31 days because it was
I
not
see.
available. So they say, you know
Yes.
what, we'll do it 2 weeks and then we'll come back after a month and we'll do it 3 more weeks.
Oh, huh. That's an interesting question. I'm not sure of the answer, but I think that, I mean, I can perhaps try to find out the answer, but
Okay.
they're there for more than 32 days. So
Right.
perhaps, I don't know. Beta? What do
My
you think?
understanding was that it would be taxable, but I think we'll look into it, Unmesh, and
Okay.
get
I
back to you
think
on that.
I think it's possible, Enmesh, that it has to be consecutive days.
Oh, okay. I just didn't know that.
That's what
That's what I wanted
that's
to
my
know.
memory too. It
Yeah.
has to be consecutive,
Yeah, now
Okay.
that I think about it. Yeah,
but we'll
Okay.
still look into it to be sure.
yeah.
Thanks. And just when I was hearing from Cynthia and also from Nicole, the Cynthia's question was, do you actually do the cleaning if it is a long-term rental? So for me, I actually had some long-term rental and I did offer that I will do the cleaning every month for one reason, that I can at least make sure that the people are taking care of the property.
Sure.
At the same time, I didn't mind paying because the house would be keeping clean, because when they leave, I need to rent it. So I've been always, anytime, people say that, okay, can we rent it for 6 weeks? And I said, I will pay for cleaning after every 2 weeks.
Yes.
Or if it is 6 months rental or 4 months rental, I said, I want to do it monthly cleaning. And I always rented it Sunday to Sunday. And sometime I will get a request asking for Saturday rental. And then I just tell them that because of my getting the cleaning person, it's difficult to be on Saturday. So I do it Sunday to Sunday. Is that a problem for you? And then there's most of the time they say, yeah, no problem. And we'll take it. So just, my experience, I thought I would share.
Yeah, thank you, Enmesh.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, I don't know the name. It says new iPad. So congratulations on the new iPad. I'm going to ask to unmute. You got to give yourself a name.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Jeannie Panulo.
Oh, hi.
I just wanted to quickly add about the pet issue. We've experienced.
I hear you have one.
Yes, but we don't allow guests to have one because I have a 6-pound toy poodle, and it's a little different with guests. Usually they have behemoths. But the rule is with the American Disabilities Act, if you rent 4 units or more, then you must accommodate service dogs. But if it's 4 or less, then you are not required. So unless people have that many units, they don't have to worry about it. They can,
And that's short-term rental?
yes.
Mhm.
Because we have looked into that. We've rented for like 20 years in Florida, where we had a rental house there, and we have had numerous people try to bluff their way in.
Yeah.
And but if you look it up with the American Disabilities Act, it's 4 units, more than 4 units. It's a court decision.
Yeah.
And
So that's countrywide. That's not just in a given
right,
state.
it's federal.
Yeah.
So, and then one thing that might be an issue that people would need to worry about, if a cleaner comes in while people are in the house, and this is from experience in Florida, sometimes people will say something's missing. So that, just be aware there's a liability issue that could happen there. And then a question about, is there any website or travel insurance that would cover in lieu of a security deposit? We could have them purchase some kind of insurance policy?
Yeah, it's in the chat room. I actually shared the link to an aggregator called travelinsurance.com.
Oh, okay, good. I'll check that
But if
out.
you could just use that link that I sent in the chat room if you want.
Okay.
And it's great because we're not pushing any particular kind of insurance, but it gives your guests the ability to compare different companies and find one that's best for them.
Right, because I see some people, my security deposit is not as hefty. I saw someone was saying $1,000, and that might put some people off. But if you could say, pay $70 for an insurance policy, you might pull someone in.
I think we're talking about 2 different things here. I think you're talking more about damage deposit.
Correct.
Yeah, not necessarily insurance. Well, first of all, we always recommend asking for a security deposit, a damage deposit, because and a refundable one at that. It provides incentive for your guests to take really good care of your homes and leave it in good condition so that they will get it back. A number of realtors will have a non-refundable, it's what's it called? It's a waiver, a security waiver, maybe $100 or $75 or something like that. And that way, if there's damage in a particular home, they don't have to go tracing it back to whoever it was. So it's more convenient for realtors who have many, many homes to cover. And that goes into a kitty. And if there's, something that needs replacing at a given home, it comes out of that. But if you have one home, it really it's a good idea to ask for a refundable security deposit, I think, rather than give them the option of just paying a modest fee, and then if there's damage done, you're stuck with
right.
paying for
Well,
it.
that's kind of the policy, something like a VRBO does, because they have the renter can buy
right. But
that.
I think you have to go through a lot of red tape to reclaim it too. I'm not sure it's the easiest.
No, I have claimed it. It's really not hard.
So there's some information in the chat from Victoria, Tori Sheehan, and Jay. You commented on this as well. So there's a link about, what is it, damage protection waiver. We don't offer it through our site, but there are some other sites out there. It might be something that useful for us to add to our
Yes.
blog on what your options are. At this time, we don't have it through our site. Not sure what our plans are there, but if it is an alternative to the security deposit, that
Yes, because I've done it both ways. I've done it with the them paying the fee. For a while, I like self-insured, because the majority of people just don't damage your house, and you can kind of play the numbers game like the insurance company does. But that is better in something like Florida, where you have almost the entire year rented, than
Right.
the short term with
Right.
the Cape,
Right.
I think.
Yeah. What did you say your name is? I'm sorry.
Jeannie Panulo?
Okay. Thanks, Jeannie.
Thanks,
Mhm.
Jeannie. I see Kelly is here.
Oh, good, because she
I
she
s-
said she can't raise her hand.
Yes, Kelly, I'm going to ask you to unmute. I do see you.
Thank you. I don't know why I don't have the unmute button.
That's all right.
Or raise my hand
Yeah,
button.
right.
I want to go back to the dog question again. Is there, or are we obligated to treat emotional support animals the same way that service animals are treated? I don't think we are.
Well, I think that they're in the same category, and you are not obligated to accept them, regardless of whether they're therapy dogs or emotional support dogs.
I actually think there's two different classifications, and there's someone shaking their head now, but
Yeah. If you, Jim, can you unmute Jeannie again? Jeannie seems to know a lot about this. Jeannie, can you unmute?
Hi. Yes, the emotional support would be considered under the same banner as the service dog, but you can't ask for them to provide certification. That's not allowed, about what kind of service animal it is, if it's emotional or some other kind. But unless you have more than 4 units, it's a mute issue. It's you decide what you want to do for your house. And I have wood floors, and I don't want to have those ruined, so I don't allow it.
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
What about your lawn? The heck with your floors.
Right.
All right. Thank you, Kelly, and any other, oh, well, here we go. Debbie.
Yes, something that Jeannie just said, just sort of very quickly, about cleaners coming in and tenants then saying that something is missing. Like, what do you
Yes.
do about something like that?
Well, that's an interesting question. I've always had my cleaning crew come in when I have a 2-week rental. I arrange it with our renters, and I imagine that if they know that someone's coming, they will either be here in attendance while the home is being cleaned, or they will, do something with their valuables if they, I would think. I've never run into that situation, and I hope that
Yeah,
people don't. But
I totally trust my cleaners, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
The person can lie.
Yeah,
right,
I
right,
understand that. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
just, how did you handle it?
Well, I have not had the issue, because what I do is I talk with the person prior, and I tell them, you must secure your valuables. We are not responsible for anything you believe. Even though I trusted my cleaners, the issue isn't really the cleaners, it's
Yeah.
people will lie.
Mhm.
And also, I know management companies in Florida were reluctant, because there was a case where cleaners came in and a maid was raped. So there's a risk to their cleaning staff when they have to go into an occupied home. Especially with COVID, it makes it more risky.
Yes. I had one more question also, and it's different. The rating that's the response that we are rated by, is that shown to the vacationers also?
Not yet, but that is the plan, to show it to them in Q2 is what we're looking at, sometime after, what we say, after April, we do plan to show it to the visitors to your
Okay.
listings.
All right, good.
But
thanks.
like I said, most of you are in good standing there and well aware of what's required and what this means to your potential guests and the importance of it. So we wanted to roll it out in these stages so that everyone does feel comfortable with it, and that if there's any sort of fine tuning that we need to do on our end, we're able to do so.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Debbie. Deb, you are up next.
Oh, hi. Thank you for having this seminar. I have a question. I have people that inquire and they ask for my address. I don't know if it's like neighbors that are just being nosy, or people that want to drive by and just look at the property. I actually, when people have asked that, I've never gotten a rental out of them. Or, yeah, I don't think I've gotten a rental out of them. Not that my property is not nice, but it's just, I don't know. How do you handle that people ask for your address? To do
Well,
a drive-by while you currently
yeah.
have tenants in the house.
So during the summer.
Right, they're on the island. I have a house on Martha's Vineyard. They're on the island, and they're renting somewhere else and they want to drive by the house.
Right. Well, I mean, if you have a Google map on your listing, they can see exactly where, or not exactly, but they don't see the address, they don't see the number, but they probably see the exterior of your home in the pictures and the street, and they could just drive by on their own and see it. And if I were looking for a home and I was already on the Cape or islands, I probably would do the same thing. I'd drive by it. In the past, when Jeff and I have been responsible for renting a large home for our extended family for the summer, we always asked if we could go and visit the home. And in most cases, they said fine. So, it's a trust issue. We're trusting these people to be in our homes in the summer, for a week at a time. And so we have to trust that, if they're asking to see it, it's especially if you give them some guidelines, it's being rented. Please do not go onto the property. But if you just pass by and look at it from the street, I would think that would be okay for most people. Jim, do you have any?
Yeah, well, I'd say if the vacationer asks and the only thing they inquire about is what's your address, maybe you don't want to give it to them right away if that doesn't make you feel comfortable, but strike up a conversation with them. Go back with a few more questions about their inquiry and see how serious they really are. You could do it that way. And then, if they're serious about a serious inquiry, more than just simply wanting to know the address so they can zoom in further or something on via Google Maps or something, that's your call. But as Joan said, it's ultimately a trust factor in your establishing a relationship with a potential guest. All right. I did say there's any more hands here. The hand has been tricky to find for some. Oh, Robin, I saw you a second ago. Robin, if you're still there, I can ask you to unmute.
Yeah, I'm here. I wanted to go back to the security deposit question that originally was mine. We've been charging $200 for decades now, and it's been on my mind as to, appropriately how to raise it, and in that appropriation, like what's a good reason to have the security deposit. I mean, for $200 or even $500, you can't really replace anything that's damaged. I mean, you go back to our insurance, obviously, but my understanding is the security deposit is either you're securing the rental for the week that you're renting, and then that gets returned when you actually pay the rent, or it's for damage. And we kind of have it rolled into one bundle, and I'm trying to approach it like, should we have two separate amounts of money? Is that something that everybody else does, or?
Yeah, I think you should separate the security deposit from a deposit on the home. I think those are two separate fees. And when someone signs a contract to rent your home and they're sending in what essentially could be called a deposit, half of the rent, that is, that's part of the rent, but that's not a security deposit. The security deposit is a damage deposit. And even though in most cases you return that security deposit, again, it provides the renter with an incentive to take good care of your home and leave it in good condition, and get that security deposit returned. And if they do something that, again, sometimes there will be some wear and tear, and you don't withhold for that. But if they break something, or and they and it has to be replaced, that's what a security deposit is for. But no, I think that most people charge an average around $500. Is that what a lot of people?
I saw two answers. One was 1,000 and one was 500. No.
Yeah. Beta, do you have anything to add?
Well, I did on the chat. I talked about it. Sorry, I've been chatting here. But the most common security deposit, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
The most common one by far is $500. People are, I am seeing more 750s, 1,000. It kind of depends on how big your home is. If you have original Renoirs hanging on the wall, I always tell people. But also, if you rent to any groups, weddings, that kind of thing, where the damage might be higher, that's always a good idea to charge a higher deposit. And I think, as Joan mentioned in the beginning, if you have a longer term rental, again, as your risks increase, you might want to increase that security deposit. But very rarely do I see too many under 500 now, unless it's a really sort of simple, small, rustic cottage, because $500 these days is not much. Some still do the 200-300, but it's just, I'm afraid it's just not enough incentive. And my feeling is you can always back off. If you ask for 500 and they kind of, that's difficult, then you can come down maybe a little bit, but you shouldn't have to. It's refundable. So.
Right. We've always, my grandparents rented it, my mom rented it. Now it's my sister and I are teaming up, and how we originally did it was to secure the week, and then they get it back when the key is returned and everything is found to be, there's no damage. So it's kind of a mishmash that we roll it together, but
right.
I can see the validity of separating them. I just have to approach it and get it done.
Right. And I'd be wary of any prospective renter who does not want to pay you a security deposit.
Right.
It's you have it for a reason, and I'd be a little bit afraid of somebody who's saying, well, do I have to pay that? It's, yeah, that's our rule.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. Barry, did you have a question? I see you just added into the chat. Did you have a question for us too? You're all set. Okay. Very good.
You can't hear me, can you?
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. So, no, I was just going to say about what I had in the chat, but I charge 1,000, and I've been renting since 2015 consistently. Never had to return anything. Some people pushed back and said, see, that security deposit's a lot. I said, well, it's fully refundable. It comes back within a week if there's no damage. And I only require them to pay that 30 days ahead.
Okay. Sorry, your audio is a little bit fuzzy coming in, so couldn't quite hear all of that. But I do see I see your information. information in your, are you up in Provincetown or Truro? Provincetown. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, no, I recall talking to you at the Provincetown meetup that we had. So and the unfortunate party that you had at your house. So that's a good case to have the
But
right.
there was enough things that happened that I could itemize why I wasn't returning the security deposit.
I see. Well, it's a good thing you had that in place then. All right. Well, we're almost wrapped up out of time. Any other questions here from the group? Joan or Beta, anything else to add?
No, not at this time. Obviously, if you have other questions that weren't covered, let us know, email us, call us.
I think we will be doing this again. We did this one quickly a couple weeks after the last one. I'm not sure when the next one is going to be, if we're going to, but we will, of course, send out, we'll try to decide that when we send out the video, probably early next week. We'll let you know when the next session is. So thank you to all for attending tonight, and we'll catch you again next time.
Thank you.
Thanks so much,
Thank
Jim.
you.